Hi, Alyssa. How are you? Thank you for joining.
Sure. Can you give me permissions to share screen? I don't think I'm
Yeah,
able.
just a second. I was just helping Greg as well. Here you go. Yes. All right. So now you can let me know if it doesn't work. Let me just. Can you? Yes, we can see.
No email yet.
I'm resending you. And just so thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jane, and I'm gonna represent KIS. We're an IT company that represents other vendors like Barracuda to help out any IT issues with a cybersecurity or basically helping connecting the vendors or big IT techs like Barracuda with you to solve any technical or cybersecurity issues. So I'm gonna welcome Alessia. She's from Barracuda, and she's going to introduce our topic for today.
Thanks, Jane. So today I'm here to talk to you about ransomware protection and to help you think through how you can create a ransomware protection plan. So Jane asked me to put together a number of trivia questions for you to keep this a little bit more entertaining and keep you engaged with some of the content of the presentation. So I want to start right off the bat with the trivia question number one. So I want you to think about ransomware and think about how much do you think ransomware attacks grew over the past year. So you have you should see an answer popping up and some of the answer options popping up on your screen. So did it grow by 135%? Did it grow by 64%, 18%, or do you think there was no change? And I think, Jane, there is some rewards for correct answers at the end of this webinar.
That's correct. Every question that you're gonna answer, the first person who's gonna answer, we will give $25, and at the end, two last two questions will receive $50. So they're worth $50. So just punch in your answers in the pool pop-up window, and at the end we calculate the results and share with you who are the winners. Thank you.
Yeah, so I see that the responses stopped coming in. So let's all take a look at what you all think. So I see that 80% of you think it was 100, but grew by 135%. Well, the correct answer is actually 64. So though it could have been 135%, I'm not blaming so many of you thinking that, it's just been growing so fast, because it really has taken over the news cycle. It's a number one concern with our customers. Whenever I talk to them and I ask them what keeps you up at night, most of the time they say it's a potential ransomware attack. So one of you who got 64, you got it right. So you got a chance of winning that prize that Jane was talking about. So the ransomware attacks grew by 64% year over year. That's based on some of the research that we have done last year, and these numbers are continuing to grow. And no one really is immune, and we have a lot of people participating in this webinar. And you're all representing different industries of different sizes, and every industry is being targeted. You kind of like expect, you hear a lot about healthcare being targeted, education being targeted because of the large amount of personal data that they have and being such a critical industries. And they are being targeted quite disproportionately, but really is no industry is immune, no organization is immune. And what we've also been really seeing is that hackers are starting to target not just this kind of typical industries that we see, like education and healthcare that traditionally been targeted by ransomware, but they're starting to target more of a strategic industries like infrastructure. Last year, we've all seen Colonial Pipeline being targeted with a ransomware attack, which has impacted not just the organization itself, not just the company itself, but really individuals around the country have been really severely impacted by the ransomware attacks suffered by an organization. And we see more and more of a critical infrastructure being targeted by hackers with a very high profile ransomware attacks. So here's the trivia question number 2. So ransomware attacks occurs every how many seconds? So every so many seconds there is a ransomware attack occurs. So here's a question that's going to pop up in just a minute. I don't see it. I'm assuming there's some technical issues there. So
Sorry, here it is.
there we go. How many so it's a wrong question entered there, but a ransomware attack occurs every how many seconds? 5 seconds, 11 seconds, 39 seconds, or 60 seconds. So we have a lot of answers coming in here. I'll give you another couple of minutes to respond to this. All right, let's take a look at the responses. So we have about 89% of you think it's 11 seconds, and that is a correct answer, 11 seconds. So there is a ransomware attack that occurs every 11 seconds. And if you think about it, but by the time it took you to complete this trivia question, there's probably a dozen ransomware attacks already taken place around the globe. So the problem is big. It occurs all the time. It's targeting all types of organizations, and the demands for the payouts of the ransomware has also been growing every year. And they, just a few years ago, there was a demand of a few thousand or even hundreds of thousands. Seems to be a really large ransomware demand, but now that number is in the millions, and it's not unusual to have an organization falling victim of a ransomware attack where hackers are demanding tens of millions of dollars in exchange to get their data back to restore their business operations. So it's getting more expensive, and organizations do tend to negotiate as well. Like a lot of organizations do pay out the ransoms, and they do negotiate. So hackers are starting to build in that cushion into the demand, thinking, we will negotiate and the price will go down, but we still want millions of dollars back. Another reason why the demands are getting so high is because the risks are actually higher for the hackers. It used to be a lot more difficult to recover the monies. Now it's not unheard of to recover the money. It's really, really hard to do still, but it's not unheard of. And hackers are also putting in a lot more effort to try to get inside the organization. So it's expensive for them to carry out the attack as well. And the US government has really started cracking down on ransomware attacks and has issued a number of demands on various foreign leaders to get tougher on cyber criminals as well. So, and it's not just a warning, they really are demanding action from the countries around the world who tend to have cyber criminals and hackers, and that may target organizations or critical infrastructure within US and other countries. So the risks are higher for the hackers. They are more likely not to get paid. They're more likely to get paid less. They're more likely to have the money lost after they did get paid by somebody recovering the money. So the demands of ransomware are going up as well. So why does this matter? Well, this matters for you because, all organizations of all sizes are at risk, as we have seen. And the ransomware demands are escalating with really no end at sight. We're expecting those demands to kind of keep increasing over the coming years as well. And cyber insurance that a lot of organizations do get does not always fix a problem. It became really a lot more difficult to get a cyber insurance as well. There is a lot of demands on the cyber insurance side, and the payouts are come at a very high premium, and a lot of things that need to be put in place before cyber insurances are even able to kick in, and you might not be able to get all of your money covered by all of your ransom covered by the cyber insurance either. So it's not always a fix-it-all problem. And the ransomware attackers, you think about them as somebody who's also running a business, and if they're not successful the first time around, just like you are in your business, they will try again and again and again to be successful. So they will come back to your organization or to somebody else's organization to get the ROI on whatever investment they made into an attack. The additional challenge here is for you is that, as you are under attack, a lot of organizations just not really sure where to do and what is actually available to them, where to start, what kind of security they need to put in place, what their ransomware protection plan should look like. And that's why we're having this conversation, because I want to walk you through about how you can start thinking about protecting your organization and what kind of things that you can put in place to help you protect against potential ransomware attacks. So how does the ransomware attack? So before we look at what to do, let's take a look at the anatomy kind of a ransomware attack and what it looks like and what are the different steps there. To simplify, this is really as an oversimplification of the ransomware attack, but I think it's a good framework to think about when you think about ransomware. A lot of ransomware attacks that actually start with an email or a phishing attacks that is looking to get to credentials. So your employees get an email, they click a malicious link, it asks them to log in into their account to check some suspicious activity. All of that information is fake. The link is fake. It gets through. Hackers get access to the credentials, and they're able to start moving laterally within the organization. And more importantly, they have access to various websites within the organization, applications. So they start hitting websites to access your business data. Then, they can poke around your web applications looking for various vulnerabilities that exist there. And once they find something, they hack it. If you don't really have the right kind of network security, application security, access security in place, they will be able to get inside and start stealing that data. They're stealing the data or they're encrypting that data, and that's at that point in time they start asking for ransom in return to unencrypting the data and getting that back to you so you can reinstate your business operations. So you really need to have a form of backup for your data that is able to secure your data and then help you to recover that data pretty quickly. So given that these are the steps of the attacks, your protection is really 3 simple steps for you to think about. The first one is to protect your email, to make sure that those bad emails don't get through. And if they do, you're able to either train your users to recognize those attacks or claw back any of those malicious emails post-delivery. You also need to secure your applications so that those don't get hacked and you don't have hackers moving laterally within your organization, and then finally back up your data. So if all else fails, you can still recover your data even if a ransomware attack did occur. So let's take a look at each one of these steps and what your checklist should be. What does it mean to protect your email? And we'll start with the trivia question number 3. So how many organizations do you think will pay a ransom? So how many organizations do you think? Is it 1 in 3, 1 in 5, 1 in 10, or 1 in 100? Give you another few seconds to respond. Pick one of the answers. 1 in 3, 1 in 5, 1 in 10, or 1 in 100. How many organizations will pay ransom? Now, let's take a look at the responses. So I see responses are coming in. So many of you said 1 in 5. There's a few said 1 in 3, and some said 1 in 10. The correct answer here is actually 1 in 3. 1 in 3 organizations will pay a ransom. And, you know, we wonder why ransomware is so dangerous, is so popular among hackers. It's because 1 in 3 of you will pay a ransom. It's a pretty good ROI. Like once you get inside, once you're successful at the attack, 1 in 3 will pay a ransom. And if you think about it, there are 4,000 attacks occur every day. We talked about every 11 seconds there is a ransomware attack, and if one of them is successful, 1 in 3 gets paid out. You know, that's a lot of money for hackers to go after, and it's a pretty good return on their efforts. A lot of the time, as I mentioned before, these attacks starts with the phishing emails. And given that around 43% of organizations actually fall victim to spear phishing attacks, it's not surprising that the hackers are really starting to combine these two incredibly effective, from their point of view, attacks, ransomware and the phishing together to create this perfect storm of email threats going into your organization and being able to hack into your organization, to be able to get inside of your organization and encrypt data and look for a payout.
And we do have a question. We do have a question from the audience. They asking if they pay the full ransom or negotiate something lower through the cyber insurance.
Yeah, great question. You know, it's it could happen either way. Like they will always ask for a full amount, and then as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the time they will negotiate, and that's why, you know, the demands are so high right now, is because there is a lot of negotiation that does happen either through cyber insurance or directly within the organization. And there were a lot of high profile ransomware attacks that were negotiated down quite significantly. Almost only like half of the demands were paid out, but you know, given that those demands are in millions, you know, it still can be devastating for organizations. How does the email play into or phishing rather plays into a ransomware attack? And we talked about how they try to get in. The first step there is really a phishing email, and hackers use the social engineering tactics to bypass some of the already email security that you have in place to get inside the user's inboxes and really trick them into disclosing information. So think about an email that comes through to your end users that appears to be from, let's say, Microsoft, that says you have an unusual activity, or your inbox is full, or there is a security alert, you need to log into your Microsoft account to check something within that. And your users click that link, and they're being taken to a website that looks exactly like what they expect a Microsoft web login page to look like. And they enter their credentials, and poof, their credentials are gone. It's not a real website. It's a hacker's website who then get access to their account. Once that account is compromised, what they can actually, what they do next is they start moving laterally within the organization. They don't necessarily need to go and hack an IT department right away. They can go and hack a salesperson, somebody in marketing, an executive assistant. It doesn't really matter who they hack, because once they inside, they have access to a legitimate account within the organization, and they can start moving laterally within the organization. An account, an individual is being trusted by their colleagues, and the content of messages that are sent from that email is also trusted. So once compromised, hackers move laterally, and they really are looking for those higher value accounts. Once they're able to do that, they get more accounts, they harvest more credentials. At that point in time, they can start encrypting data. Once they get access to that, sometimes they exfiltrate some of the data before demanding ransom, and then they do this double dipping as well. So you pay ransom, and then they say, well, what we actually did, we took all of your data out. So if you don't want us to release it, if you want that data back, pay us again. So we've seen a number of ransomware attacks that kind of unfolded that way as well. So what do you do? What's your email security checklist should look like? So there are a number of things that you can put in place, but I recommend to focus on these 3 to begin with. If you are not doing something, this is a good place to start and just make sure that you have those in place. The first thing is to, of course, block any phishing attacks or any other attacks that you might be coming into your organization. So you want to prevent all of the zero-day threats. So these are malware attacks that we've never seen before, right? So sandbox technology is a really good technology to use to scan attachments or malicious links for any malicious payload that has not been seen before, and various social engineering attacks as well. And what we have found is that the gateway technologies are not always 100% effective against social engineering attacks. So use of machine learning for phishing protection and having a dedicated account takeover protection in place that is able to monitor for suspicious activities within an email account is really useful and a lot more effective. So at Barracuda, our email security has all of those components, protecting against zero-day attacks using sandboxing. We use machine learning for phishing protection that we find so much more effective and really offers a much higher degree of detection efficacy compared to the gateway only approach. And then the account takeover protection to alert you for if there is any suspicious activities that are occurring within your user's email accounts, so if you have an intruder inside. The second part of it is training your users. So no security is effective 100% of the time. Sometimes something will get through. And when it does, you want to make sure that your users are that last line of defense. Make sure you do regular phishing simulation. Make sure that this is an ongoing and relevant training. You understand what kind of threats your organization is being targeted with, and then you train your users based on those real-time threats. And again, at Barracuda, we have modules that will help you to do that. And then finally, implement remediation. So if something did get through, if your users were well trained and reported those attacks to you, what do you do next? Well, you need to make sure that you have tools in place to be able to remediate those post-delivery pretty quickly, so that you're able to uncover any threats that might have got through, and then automatically claw back any of the messages really quickly before users can interact with them, before they can spread through your organization as well. So having a post-delivery response tools is also part of your email security checklist. So second is to secure your application. And we talked about earlier how hackers are able to move laterally within the organization and looking for vulnerabilities within applications. So if you think about it, we already live in a post-breach world, because your credentials and credentials of your employees are already out there. You know, they have already been breached. You have already been breached. There were so many security breaches around, data breaches around the world, that my personal information, your personal information, it already exists someplace. So hackers already know how to get inside, who you are, what your name is, and maybe potentially your passwords, your account information, or they at least have some kind of a starting point to start attacking and hacking into their accounts. I'm sure you're all familiar with the Verizon data breach report. They publish this every year. I think there is a new one that just came out or just about to come out. But they publish this data every year, and every year it looks kind of similar, but a little bit different. But last year, what I thought was really interesting is they looked at the top attack vectors. So where do hackers start when they are trying to breach organization? And they use two methods, hacking and social. And social is really about phishing, but hacking is all about web applications. They're trying to get inside the organization by hacking a web application. The reason why it's so successful and so effective for them is because web applications and other business applications have a lot of vulnerabilities within them. And once they're inside, they're able to identify those vulnerabilities and start to exploit them. So because of that, it is also very important as part of your ransomware protection that you have you have this application security checklist in place, and that you're able to protect all of your applications. So the first step is to protect your web application. And applications are often, as I mentioned, have a lot of vulnerabilities that can be exploited. So make sure that you use application security that will protect against these vulnerabilities. So things like zero-day attacks or brute force attacks. The second thing you need to do is to protect access to those applications, right? So make sure that only allow access only to authorized users or your authorized devices that are able to access that. So choose the solution that has things like zero-day trust built in, that allows for role-based access, multi-factor authentication, this continuous verification of users and identity and devices as well, so that you always know who and what is accessing your applications, and when something malicious is happening or outside of the norm, that you're able to detect that and hold that before it kind of spreads and causes damage. And then finally, protect lateral movement within the organization. And this is really important because once they're inside, they start moving laterally. So you want to have a correct network security, network firewalls in place to prevent that lateral movement within the organization, to kind of shut hackers out from moving inside your network, inside your infrastructure. So lock hackers access out of any critical data that you may have. Okay, so I've got one more trivia question. MFA will completely protect against unauthorized access. Is that true or false? So a lot of you have probably already got MFA in place or thinking about getting MFA in place. So do you think it will completely protect you? Just true or false? All right, so let's take a look at the responses here. Yeah, I've got this is a great response. I'm so happy that 100% of you think this is false, because it is false. It's a great tool to prevent that, to reduce your risk. And if you don't have MFA in place for your users, you should seriously consider that. But it's definitely not the silver bullet, but a great tool to have in place. And finally, back up your data. So it's important that your data is the most valuable asset that you have. So you want to make sure that your data is secured, and if ransomware attack were to occur, that you are able to secure your data and recover and back up.
Right.
So why do you need to back up data? So there's a number of reasons why organizations are backing up the data. The first thing is you want to be able to restore any of the lost files, right? So if you lose any files or the malicious or accidental loss, you can restore them. You can recover from a disaster, you can recover from ransomware, and you can recover from accidental deletion. And actually, most of the data loss occurs due to accidents rather than the malicious activity. So having ability to recover data from accidental deletion is very important, because data is so important for every organization today. So if you're on Microsoft 365, and I'm sure many of you are, if not all of you, do you think your data is secure? Do you think Microsoft protects your data? So I have the next trivia question. Microsoft backs up my 365 data for unlimited time. Do you think that's correct or not? So think about Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams. The answers coming in. Okay, let's take a look. So I see that they stopped trickling in. So let's take a look at the responses. So 100% of you think that it's false, and that is also correct. And a lot of customers that we talk to actually think that Microsoft does back up the data, but in fact they don't. They recommend that organizations like yourselves use third parties to back up the data and store it securely. Microsoft will back up your SharePoint, your OneDrive for around 90 days. So if you have accidentally deleted something, it's backed up for around 90 days. But after that, you really is out of luck there. And I think Exchange is only for around 30 days. So they don't back up it, they don't secure your data. In fact, they recommend that you use somebody else to do that. But a lot of organizations actually don't realize that that is the case. 70% of organizations don't believe they actually need to back up the Microsoft 365 data. They think what they have with Microsoft is enough. And if ransomware attack were to strike, if you were to lose some files, that is actually you will not be able to recover that data as easily as you could have done with a dedicated backup solution like the one we would have at Barracuda. So what does your data protection checklist should look like? Well, first, as we talked about, you should back up your data, right? So make sure that you back up your both on-premise data as well as the cloud data if you have those. So think about your Exchange, your SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, all of those things need to be backed up, need to be secure so that you're able to recover on time. Attackers are also targeting not just your data, but they will target your backup as well, so that you can't recover. They know that you're backing up your data. So protect your ability to recover your data as well, using things like encryption and access control, IP restrictions. Have those in place. Make sure that your backup solution has those things in place so that you can recover and create barriers for hackers to kind of sabotage your ability to recover. And then finally, develop your recovery plan. So you really need to act quickly. You need to restore your data. And most importantly, do not pay ransom. Get prepared and then do not pay ransom. If you pay, once you start paying the ransoms, it just encourages hackers to to go and do it again and again and again, because 1 in 3 organizations pay ransom. That's why they do it. So have a technical and business response in place. Test your plan, and test your plan not in action, but before the disaster strikes. And make sure you communicate that plan to everybody within your organization. Your IT and security teams are important. Your executive team is important, but also just your general employees, so that they know how to act if something were to happen, how to report potential suspicious activity, how to act if they feel that they have a malware on their machine, and what to do, who to report to, how to disconnect maybe from various applications. So make that part of your training for your employees. So how can Barracuda help? Well, again, if we think about those 3 steps, protecting your email, securing your application, backing up your data, we really feel at Barracuda that we have all the necessary tools for you to be able to have yourselves covered as much as possible in all of those 3 areas. And I think a lot of the time, what you will find is that you will have to work with a lot of different vendors to fill in all of these gaps and to create your comprehensive ransomware protection for yourselves. With Barracuda, you only need to work with one organization and use different tools that we offer that work together to provide this ransomware protection plan. So to protect your email, we have a Barracuda email protection that has protection against malware and spam, zero-day attacks, sandboxing, as well as machine learning for protection against phishing attacks and account takeover protection. We also have our incident response, which is a great tool for post-delivery remediation for any threats that may have gotten through. You can very quickly create incidents and remediate within minutes. We have thousands of organizations using these tools, and what they tell us is that once implemented, the post-delivery remediation, which usually could take hours, if not days, to be able to uncover all of the instances of malicious messages and then remove them from their users' environment, it's really slashed down to just minutes. And I'm sure you're all understand that time is very, very important here. We also offer security awareness training for users, as well as archiving, solution encryption, and a lot of other outbound security as well, to help protect the communication, email communication for your users. When it comes to securing the application, there's a lot of different services, such as application security, cloud gen access, which is a zero trust security, and then a firewall network firewall security solutions as well to help prevent hackers accessing your application, hacking into your websites, and moving laterally within the organization, within your network. And then finally, backing up your data, and that comes kind of in 2 flavors depending on your needs. We have a cloud-to-cloud backup, which is a 100% cloud-based solution, and then we also have an on-premise solution for backing up data as well. So depending on the needs, you can select one or the other. And where to start? I want to leave you with a great tool for you to try out. Barracuda Email Threadscan. If you have not tried this yet, this is 100% free tool to really help you identify where your gaps are and what kind of attacks you're vulnerable to. So this is works for Microsoft 365 environment. All you need is your admin login. So you go in, you log in into our tool, and we will scan your users' inboxes, all of your users' inboxes for the past 6 months or so, and we will look for any attacks that are currently sitting inside the inboxes. So anything that your current email security solution has missed. And you'll see a report that will highlight all of these threats, and you can go through them and then act if you want to remediate those attacks. So it takes about, depending on the size of your organization, just a couple of hours tops to run the scan. It's completely free. It has no impact on your email security that you have in place, or any email performance. Is just runs at the back, and we run this for thousands of organizations already. It uses a machine learning technology to look for these malicious attacks inside your users' inboxes. So I encourage you to go and check it out. I think Jane will include a link to this tool in the
Yes. I will, with the link to the recording and the slides, if that is also be included, but some additional documents about email protection.
And then also, if you want to do some more reading, we have a lot of information on ransomware, application security, threats, email security. So check out the ebooks. The new ABC of application security, one of the newer ebooks, just looks at the at different vulnerabilities that are suffered by applications and what you can do about that. Threat Spotlight from 2022. Every month we publish a threat spotlight. We look at specific security threats and we dive in and we publish a blog. And then at the end of the year, we create an ebook that just summarizes all of the key threats that we have seen over the past year. And this is what this ebook is about. And then the final one is Don't Pay the Ransom. This is a our ransomware ebook and talks about these 3 steps in a little bit more in detail. So download all of them, one of them, check them out. A lot of useful information and best practices in there. All right, your final question. So let's find out how well you listened to this. What should your 3-step ransomware protection plan be? Get insurance, protect email, backup data, or protect email, secure application, backup data, train users, set up MFA, develop recovery plan, or maybe panic, pay ransom, and hope to get some of your data back. So what your plan should be? Pick one answer. I'll give you a little bit more time. I know there's a lot of reading to do on the screen, so get insurance, protect email, backup data, or protect email, secure applications, backup data, train users, set up MFA, develop recovery plan, or panic, pay ransom, hope to get some of your data back. All right. Okay, I think we can take a look maybe at the responses. Okay, so I've got a wide variety of responses. So I can tell you the number 2 is the right answer. So those are the 3 steps that we recommend. You protect your data, you secure your application, you backup data. Now, the other 2 are not wrong. Yeah, well, the ones that you responded. Get insurance, protect email, backup data. That's the right answer, but you forgot your applications, right? So it's just incomplete. And then train users, set up MFA, develop recovery plan, also great steps, but they're just incomplete. You need a couple of other things to add to make sure that you have your ransomware protection plans is as secure, as comprehensive as possible. And I'm glad that nobody's going to panic and pay a ransom. So that should never be your plan. So hopefully, even if you pick one of those, the other 3 is a good starting point, but I encourage you to really look at protect your applications, protect your email, secure application, back up your data as your kind of 3 steps towards getting a really good ransomware protection. I think this is all I had for today. If you have any questions, answer them in the chat. I will be very happy to respond to them. I don't know if Jane had any last minute follow-up information for you as well.
Yes, thank you. So that was so great. It was very interesting to learn more and how on the cyber threats, ransomware, and how we can protect our employees, our business, our data. We will be sending an email with recording and some additional links, and a link to additional links to the documents, and a link to for a free cyber security check. And then also on that email, we'll be announcing the winners. So thank you very much. And we hope to see you in our next webinar.
Yeah. I think one question that just came in from John asks, does the scanning tool work for Google Workplace? Unfortunately not. It works for Microsoft 365 environments only. So you have to be on Microsoft 365 to scan that.
Good. Any other last minute questions?